The sun had just begun to fall behind the red hills of Arizona when the silence of the plains was broken by a faint cry. Rancher Eli McGraw, known across 3 counties for his quiet strength and unbending sense of justice, pulled his horse to a halt. He had heard gunfire earlier, but the scream that followed carried something different: fear. He rode toward the sound, dust swirling behind him like smoke from a fading fire. Beneath a crooked oak tree, he found her, a young woman wounded and barely conscious, her dress torn and blood-stained. She whispered, "There, it hurts," before collapsing. For a moment, Eli froze. Memories of his late wife flooded his mind. She, too, had died on this same trail after a stagecoach ambush. He dismounted, his hands trembling as he lifted the woman from the dirt. Her skin was hot with fever, her breath uneven. He saw a deep gash on her shoulder, likely from a knife. He tore his bandana, pressed it to her wound, and muttered, "Hold on, miss. Don't you quit on me." He carried her to his horse and rode fast toward his ranch, heart pounding as the sky turned to night. When they reached his cabin, Eli laid her on his bed, lit a lamp, and began to clean the wound with trembling hands. She moaned softly in pain, and Eli clenched his jaw, fighting the storm of emotion inside him. He had spent years hiding from the ghosts of his past, but this woman's suffering brought them all roaring back. When she woke briefly, she looked around in terror, eyes darting to the gun on his hip. "Don't hurt me," she whispered. "Please." Eli stepped back immediately, raising his hands. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "I ain't the kind who hurts people. My name's Eli. You're on my land now." She studied him through the dim light and fainted again. That night, Eli didn't sleep. He sat in a chair by the bed, watching her chest rise and fall, the lamplight flickering across her bruised face. At dawn, she woke again, whispering her name, Clara. She was running from men who had raided her wagon and killed her father. The outlaws were headed north, and if they found out she'd survived, they'd come back to finish the job. Eli listened, fists clenched. He knew who they were, men he once rode with, before he'd walked away from that life. Now, with Clara under his roof, he knew he couldn't stay silent any longer. Something inside him, something fierce and long buried, began to stir again. By the 3rd day, Clara was strong enough to stand, though her shoulder still ached. Eli had built her a small fire, cooked beans, and kept his distance, careful not to scare her. Yet every time she looked at him, there was a strange mix of fear and trust in her eyes. She asked him once, "Why are you helping me?" Eli didn't answer right away. He looked out the window to where the dry plains stretched endlessly. "Because I didn't help when I should have before," he said, "and I ain't making that mistake again." When he saddled his horse the next morning, Clara followed him outside. "You're going after them, aren't you?" she said. Eli nodded. "They won't stop, Clara, not until someone stops them first." She reached out, touched his arm, and whispered, "Then I'm coming with you." He shook his head. "You're hurt." But she only said, "So are you," just not where anyone can see. Her words struck him like a bullet. He saw then that she was stronger than the pain that had broken her. Together, they rode out under the blazing sun. When they found the outlaws camped by a river, Eli's heart pounded with rage. He saw the faces of the men who had once called him brother. The leader, Wade Collins, laughed when he saw Eli ride up. "Well, I'll be damned." The rancher turned hero. Eli dismounted slowly, his eyes cold. "You hurt that girl," he said. "You took everything from her. You won't take another soul." The outlaws reached for their guns, but Eli was faster. In the flash of gunfire, dust exploded, and when the smoke cleared, Wade lay on the ground, his own pistol fallen beside him. Eli's arm bled from a graze, but he didn't flinch. Clara, trembling behind him, looked at the fallen men and whispered, "It's over." Eli turned to her, his face shadowed by the setting sun. "No," he said quietly, "it's beginning." They buried the dead by the river and rode home in silence. The ranch that had once felt haunted now felt alive again. Clara tended the fire, and Eli, for the first time in years, felt the heavy weight of guilt lift from his chest. He had done the unthinkable, not by killing, but by letting himself care again.